Welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Romano. In today's video, we are going to be discussing the commodities market, cryptocurrency, as well as what is actually happening. I would also like to analyze the reasons behind the possibility of what is actually happening. Because just because they're saying that we're dealing with inflation right now, that's actually not true. Because if you wanted to deal with inflation, then you would have done that 20 years ago. And instead of keeping interest rates so low for so long, they would have continued to raise interest rates as housing prices went up. But they didn't do that. They kept bringing it down. So that's why real estate prices, of course, kept going up. It was only evident. Whereas in Switzerland, things are a little different there. They don't allow that to happen. To continue, I would like to talk about cryptocurrency. As we know, our government is coming out with a new cryptocurrency that is controlled and monitored by the federal government in some way. Once that happens, what are they going to do with gold? Is gold and silver going to be backed by that currency? Or are they going to continue the fiat style of currency? You can't have two currencies, and you can't have a government offering two currencies because it just doesn't make sense. Now, I could understand why they would want to come up with their own digital currency because they could monitor things, they could control us even more than they do now, and as well as reduce fraud and a lot of other things. More than 10 years ago, that when Bitcoin came out, and when I understood the story on the cover of the Institutional Trader, I love that magazine, and when I seen that and I read that story, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be the biggest thing on creation. And they pushed it in our face, and they had us embrace it. I knew the story behind why that was being pushed in our face. I could read through the lines. And because it was funded, the actual concept of it was funded by the US government in the 70s and 80s, dealing with the Cold War era, just as the internet was funded by the government. But later, because of the Cold War ended, it became the public sector. So that's what normally happens after 20 years. And so by the mid-1990s, we had the internet being basically created, and it grew to what it is today. But it was interesting that cryptocurrency took so long to come about, even though that the scientists back in the 70s and 80s, they were already working on a cryptocurrency for the government. It seems like that information came to the public through maybe someone who improved that strategy that was created in the 70s and 80s, and then they basically launched it as a Bitcoin cryptocurrency. Then you had all these other cryptocurrencies come about, which was very interesting, but again, you can't have all these cryptocurrencies because it just doesn't make sense. When you think of a currency, you think of it being part of a government, and that's why it just makes more sense that way. I believe the future is going to be every government basically having their own cryptocurrency. There is not going to be no official cryptocurrency globally because whoever controls that controls the world. So is it possible that our country is trying to push a cryptocurrency very fast in our face and basically make us embrace it, and then it's a way to control us even more, but also control the world? So right now we have gold prices, commodities particularly, dropping. And it dropped $100, and now of course it went up $100, but from 1900, 1700, 1600 something, why was it going down? And I couldn't understand this. If the stock market keeps going down, typically you have the commodities that rise. And so there's an inverse relationship between the commodity prices and the stock market. So the question today is, why is the commodities market still so low compared to what the stock market is doing? Before we continue the video, please remember to do thumbs up. It's right there. All you have to do is press that button to say thank you. Thank you so much. There's an inverse relationship between the stock market and commodities. When the stock market drops, commodities go through the roof. But this time around, we have a stock market dwindling down since January of 2020, and it's basically at its lowest in September of 2020. But you have to also be careful the last week in October. That is a market prediction that I make, that the last week of October, it's also going to go down big time. I don't know as much as it did in September, but maybe because now it's going up, and it's calming down, and then it's going to drop even more by the end of October. But then, after October, it'll be fine. Now, if you look at the commodity prices for gold, let's say talk about gold. It doesn't make any sense if the stock market has been dropping since the new year of 2020, all the way till today, that we also have a commodities bubble that's bursting. This doesn't make any sense. If there's uncertainty in a market, people run to the commodities market and they buy gold. But let's also look at cryptocurrency, all right? So cryptocurrency has also dropped, and there's always something behind as to why that happens. Nothing is happening in our country for just by chance. It happens because of a reason. Now, you have a commodities bubble, a real estate bubble, and a stock market bubble, all bursting at the same time, and globalization bursting. So that's another bubble. This is an incredible time to be a part of and to analyze what is actually happening. But I think I have the answers. I believe, not that I know something or I'm psychic, I'm just making this prediction out, I believe that the federal government will come out with a cryptocurrency, and they will back it by gold or commodities particularly. And because when a government comes out with that, before they actually come out with and they say that, the government leaders and the family of those leaders, they start shorting the markets, or they go long on the markets. They always somehow get involved in the bandwagon. And whether it's illegal or not, it happens. That's how it is. And even if they don't do that in our own country, other country leaders could do that in our country because they do have connections. So if you understand that and you look at commodities prices that they're dropping, when the stock market is also dropping, so the commodity price right now should be going up past 1900, okay? It should be peaking. It should be peaking because the stock market is at an all-time low. It's like it lost all the highs of the past last boom that we had. And it doesn't make any sense because they're in a better position now than they were in 2007 and 8. So because of the commodities dropping as well, they are going to back the cryptocurrency that the government is going to come out with gold bullion. And so you have to be very careful not to buy gold bullion. You always buy the currency, which is a gold coin. I know if you have millions of dollars, you're going to have to buy many gold coins, but that's just how it is. You should always have 20%, 10 to 20% of your wealth in gold coins. So now that you understand why I believe gold prices are going down, is probably because they are moving from a fiat currency to a currency that is possibly digital, that is backed by gold or commodities in some way. Maybe it's not one-on-one, but maybe it's a certain percent of that cryptocurrency that will be backed by gold or commodities such as silver and gold. Now, I say this because I know how to analyze the financial markets like the back of my you-know-what. I have a PhD in financial management and leadership, and I have over 1,000 pages of research on hedge fund selection. And I have 2 MBAs. One is on financial management and leadership, and the second is on risk management and insurance. That's why I know asset protection, and that's why I understand the financial market so well. And because history always repeats itself, you have to say to yourself, well, what's actually happening behind the scene? Behind the scene makes more sense. If there's uncertainty in our markets today because real estate prices are going to drop, then where do people run? They don't just sell everything and keep it in cash. No, they put it in a commodity because when there is a collapse, gold and silver prices always go through the roof, okay? You could also invest in diamonds, but remember when there is a stock market collapse or a major issue with the economy, diamond prices trade sideways, but they never go down. And so that's why the perfect investment is actually a diamond certificate, not the diamonds you put on your ears or your finger. It's the actual diamond, cut diamond that's sealed in a certificate that has been certified by the Diamond Certification Institute. That's my take on as to why we're having this commodity bubble. I mean, it's not a bubble, it's just a downturn in our commodity prices. Possibly those people that do own commodities such as gold bullion and silver, they're selling their gold bullion because they think that the government is going to confiscate that. Now, they're not going to take it away from you and say that you have to give it to us for free. No, they're going to offer you a certain amount of money based on the market value, just like they did in our past history. You have to remember, again, everything repeats itself. So you just have to be aware of what's happening. And you also have to be aware that you could have all the gold reserves in the world, but you're not going to have dollar for that. Meaning that you could only print a certain amount of cash based on those gold reserves. So in this case, they're probably going to revalue the gold once again as they did in the past. And somehow there's some kind of balance of gold between the cryptocurrency value and the gold value. I don't know how it's going to work out as of yet because I don't even know if this is going to happen. No one has told me this. I simply look at the charts. If you have a real estate bubble that's bursting, globalization that is bursting, you have the stock market that's bursting because it went up so much in 2020, that's bursting. And you also have a change in our markets. So the real estate market was a big market over the past 25 years because of Bill Clinton. He signed that initiative that everyone should own their own house and everyone should go to college. So what did he do? He made it easier to get student loans and to get mortgages. And so that's why we had the bubble of 08 and 09, and they continue to ride that bubble until today. And now it's ended because of our government is going to end it. And they see now that the foreign investors could no longer prop up our markets and make competition. China is not going to be buying American real estate, and Russia is not going to be buying American real estate. It will be confiscated. So with that in mind, how many trillions of dollars did China, Russia, and Europe, you have to remember that Europe's seen their economic rise as well. And so you had a lot of Europeans, as the dollar went down and the euro went up, they came to America to buy real estate. And so that's why the real estate propped up so high after 08 and 09. Because of that collapse, that should have taught us that you don't buy a house with no money down or 10% down. You just don't do it. And of course, corporations also bought real estate and did the Airbnbs, the Airbnb type of business, as well as creating a portfolio of real estate, thinking that they were going to hold on to it and then they would sell it for a profit. But if you understand that right now, corporations have to take their profits at a certain point. So if all these corporations start taking their profits, of course the real estate prices go down. Of course they could drop by 50%. And this is why Ray Dalio, he's saying that. Ray Dalio is a big hedge fund manager. He's been around since the 1980s, a long time. and he's been very successful at managing capital. His hedge fund is one of the largest companies in the world. So if he's saying a 50% drop in our real estate market, that makes perfect sense. Because China, Russia, and Europe, and the rest of the world, if they pull out of our markets, where does that leave us? Secondly, if you bought a house recently, you've got to be nuts to actually keep it, because if you lose your job, you're not going to be able to pay back the entire mortgage, even if you put down 20%. So that's another issue that we're dealing with. And so you have all these gigantic bubbles bursting at the same time. And so that's why I believe that the government planned it perfectly at this time to basically scare people from buying Bitcoin and saying that they now have to monitor cryptocurrency. And they come out with their own cryptocurrency, and it's backed by gold to some degree. Exactly. And they back it by gold because it's going to be safer, but meanwhile, they know who has the wealth. And they could simply turn off your capital like that. And that's scary. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you really enjoyed my content. And please remember, if you want to subscribe to get my future videos, just press the button. It does not hurt. And please, if you want to say thank you, just do thumbs up to say thank you and let me know you appreciate these videos, and I'll make more. Thank you so much.